Hey there, Alex Kidman here, and today I'm taking a look at the Samsung Galaxy Buds FE. Now, when Samsung throws an FE suffix on a product, it actually means fan edition because apparently Samsung fans want slightly lower powered. I've never really understood the whole fan edition thing because what it really means is lower cost products. These are the just below premium line, and previously, Samsung's really used it primarily for phones, generally very good phones, very good value phones, phones that I've liked quite a bit. But the Galaxy Buds FE are, of course, headphones, little bud headphones. Here in Australia, they retail at $199, and that puts them in a really interesting position because there's a lot of competition in that particular price space. Yes, you can buy much, much cheaper headphones, and generally they're pretty poor. There are a few little shining diamonds there, but there's a lot of rubbish. But at around $200 is where things start to get really good. So in order to stand out, the Galaxy Buds FE had to really impress me. And generally, they did. So, look, in design terms, there's no lot to say here, actually, because they start out really with only two color options: black, graphite, technically speaking, or white. And it's not even magical white or mystical white or even superfluous prefix white. It's just white. That's very plain styling from Samsung there, especially when you consider that the S23 FE phone that these launched alongside comes in 6 different colours. And if you get one of the more vibrant ones, the orange there, for example, the mint or the purple, they're really not going to match all that well to a set of white buds. Maybe a little bit more colour variance might have been a fun thing for Samsung to do here, but they didn't. Open the case up, and you get these very simple white little buds. Quite a nice, simple, plain design. The big interesting point here are these little wingtip fins. They're designed to make it easier for them to sit in your ears. But I do recognise that there are some people that find buds uncomfortable at the best of times and really don't like that wingtip kind of thing. The good news here is they're really, really easy to peel off and remove. You don't want them, you don't have to have them. I think they look a little bit weird because they end up with this band on them if you don't have the wingtips on there. And I didn't find the wingtips actually all that uncomfortable. I'll get into the comfort in a bit, but it's nice to at least have the choice. So when it comes to pairing the Galaxy Buds FE, well, that depends on the device that you're going to pair them to, because rather predictably, these play nicely with Samsung devices first and foremost. So I had an S23 FE that Samsung loaned me for review, and as soon as I opened this case, they popped up. They said, hey, we've noticed there's some Buds FE nearby. Do you want to pair to them? And that was very simple, very easy, and of course then you get access to full controls and firmware updates and all of that good stuff. So what if you wanted to pair them to something that wasn't a Samsung phone though? Well, that's totally doable because they are still standard Bluetooth, but it's a little bit more work. It's a bit more of a faff because basically on Android devices, Samsung's going to want you to have the Galaxy Wearable app installed, plus a plugin for the Buds FE themselves. On other devices, it's a question of closing the case and then opening the case up again after a minute or so. It's an annoying process, really. Honestly, if I had my way, every single set of buds like these would just have a connection button on the side and they just connect to anything regardless. I can say they will connect to other sources. I mean, I have connected them to an iPhone. I know, it's heresy, but it does work. It can be done, but it's a fair bit of work to do so. These are built into the Samsung ecosystem predominantly, but hey, everyone does that kind of ecosystem play these days, so I can't exactly single out Samsung just for doing it. So in the past, Samsung's headphones have generally impressed me. They've generally been very good. Never really quite my absolute outright favourites in a given space, though. The Buds FE might change that, though, because while they're much more mid-range priced, they're really rather good for what they do. I do have to qualify for what they do. So, for example, at $199, you get active noise cancellation. Now, that's not unique in this space, but it's still certainly not common. There's also a fairly simple transparency mode. There's no kind of voice-activated go quiet mode, though, if you like that kind of thing. And I do have to say, while the active noise cancelling works, it is on the softer side. So going out for walks and runs, yes, I could cut out the kind of hum of everyday life, but never completely eradicate it. If you want that much quieter environment, if you want smarter ANC, you will have to spend a little bit more than you do on the Galaxy Buds FE. Here I've got to say, the wingtips do help because they help form what is essentially an isolation barrier within your ear. Now, that's not active noise cancelling, of course, that's just a block in your ear. But the difference with them on and off in terms of the level of noise that gets through is quite remarkable. Now, once they're installed, Samsung does provide a range of equalizations to suit a variety of tastes, but their standard default is what I always try and test for because I can't tell what you're going to pick. You might be a bass maniac, you might prefer things much more on the sibilant side. That's obviously up to you. While you don't get support here for Samsung's version of spatial audio, 360 audio, you do get a decent kind of sound envelope for most sound. So, for example, I'm a big Prince fan. Testing with Purple Rain, which is one of my standard default tracks, I know it very, very well. It provided quite decent staging, quite decent separation of music and vocals. It worked quite well, and because it just came out as I was testing this, I've also tested with the Dolly Parton version of Purple Rain. Now, I'm not as big a fan of that track, but it does a decent enough job with what Dolly's done with that version, which is, I think, a little overproduced, but I digress. The Buds FE did a good job of showing that through, and it's similar with more vocally inspired tracks. So I tested, for example, with Louis Armstrong's What a Wonderful World, and that presented quite well. Diving elsewhere, the Beastie Boys' Too Many Rappers presents well with a decent amount of thump for the kind of grimier nature of that song. Basically, these are well-balanced headphones. The audio is actually quite pleasing within that price space. These are not audiophile grade, and I really do have to qualify that. These are much more everyday quality, and that's where they're priced, where they're pitched, really. If you want better headphones, yes, Samsung has those, and so do many of their competitors, but they will cost you more, of course. What about making and taking calls? Well, obviously, that does somewhat depend on the mobile network, but I've taken a basic audio recording out of these just to give you an idea of what they sound like. The microphones on the Galaxy Buds FE are exactly what you'd expect. This is me through them, of course. You're not going to fool anyone that you're not on some kind of external microphone, but they get the point across, which is all most of these smaller buds tend to do, really. In terms of battery life, that endurance is going to vary depending on how much you use them and how you use them, and whether or not you use active noise cancelling. With ANC enabled, up to 6 hours is claimed, without it, up to 8.5. Now, I don't get why you'd buy active noise cancelling headphones and not use them with active noise cancelling, but you do you, I suppose. What I've found is 5 hours is more typical with ANC, obviously a bit more if I disabled it, which I generally didn't want to do. But 5 hours is generally enough for everything except really long-term flights. The case itself will give you up to 15 hours more of ANC playback, so up to 21 hours maximum ANC, or up to 30 hours with ANC disabled. That's another 21.5 hours on top. Obviously, you'd have breaks in the middle there because you'd have to actually recharge the buds. That's not 21 or 30 hours straight through in one hit. One thing I did like here was the general comfort level. Now, I'm someone who often finds that wearing buds for that longer period of hours, anything above maybe about 2 hours, I often find my ears really start to hurt a lot, and it takes a while for them to recover too. I did not have that problem with these buds, especially with the wingtips installed. I found them more comfortable that way. Again, your mileage may vary because everyone's ears are different, but these are amongst the most comfortable buds, especially at this price point that I've tested. One thing that you don't get, because this is the fan edition, remember, this is the cheaper model, is you don't get wireless charging. So if you want to charge them, it's USB-C only, and there's no charger in the box, just a cable, but pretty much any USB-C charger will do. So should you buy the Galaxy Buds FE? Look, I think they're a really good value set, and that is their primary selling proposition, as it is with Samsung's other FE products, really. They're not going to excite the audiophile crowd. They should go elsewhere. They should look at spending a little bit more. But if you're after a solid, good value set of headphones from a reputable brand, then these come recommended. Here in Australia, they'll run you about $199, although I have seen them cheaper in some online stores, so do shop around. Anyway, that's my take on the Galaxy Buds FE. Got any thoughts, any comments, anything you want to know? Hit me up in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit like and hit subscribe.